it'd be easy for me to go, you know what, my shoulder's fine. I'm fine. I don't really need to do this. But already my range of motion is improving. I know it's working, but man, it's painful. Welcome to the Laughing.Mystics, an unorthodox journey through the liturgical year with Laura Lewis Barr and Marcy Maderi.
Welcome, listener, good listener, and nice to be with you, Laura.
Always.
As we talk about the 20th Sunday, the Kingdom of Heaven is now time. I think I got it right.
I think you got it.
Right. Ordinary time.
She had to slip that in.
I did because I like to make Laura laugh too. A reading from the book of the prophet Jeremiah. In those days, the princes said to the king, Jeremiah ought to be put to death. He is demoralizing the soldiers who are left in this city and all the people by speaking such things to them. He is not interested in the welfare of our people, but in their ruin. King Zedekiah answered, He is in your power, for the king could do nothing with him. So they took Jeremiah and threw him into the cistern of the prince Malachi, which was in the quarters of the guard, and let him down with ropes, where there was no water in the cistern, only mud. And Jeremiah sank into the mud. Ebed-melech, a court official, went there from the palace and said to him, My lord, these men have been at fault in all they have done to the prophet Jeremiah, casting him into the cistern. He will die of famine on the spot, for there is no more food in the city. Then the king ordered Ebed-melech, the Cushite, to take 3 men along with him and draw the prophet out of the cistern before Jeremiah could die.
I'll let you start if you wanted to start this. I do have some ideas.
Well, I just think this is a really bad day for Jeremiah.
Yeah, I sunk into the mud.
Right. And then what? You know, he needed an advocate. He needed someone to speak on his behalf. And I like that the reading, says that Ebed-melech is a Cushite or a foreigner. So again, someone who is outside the norm to see the truth. The importance of the outsider to see the truth and name the truth and saying, this is not right. And that, the king Zedekiah, is very influenced by the princes and a bit fed up and not sure what to do with Jeremiah and said, fine, whatever. But he does listen. And so, maybe that gives me hope for the King Zedekiah within myself, even when I'm fed up and frustrated and maybe make a flip choice, that there still can be hope for me, that I can still hear truth and act on it.
That's really nice. Yeah, I zoomed in on the king. It feels like the king is a big part of this reading, the way it's edited down into these 2 paragraphs. And the king is a big symbol in myth and fairy tale, and it often refers to, in fairy tales, there's often the king that's dying, or the king that, in this case, is not, he doesn't have strong foundations. He doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know what he stands for. He's too easily influenced by evil. And so a lot of times in myths and fairy tales, this king has to be taken away, got rid of, because the whole kingdom depends on a king that isn't so easily warped and influenced. It could also stand for my ego, and that's kind of where you were going too. And so do I have a strong foundation to not be so easily influenced?
And when I am easily influenced, because, I get that from the reading that King Zedekiah was just worn out, that when I'm in that place, can I hear the truth and act on it?
And recognize.
Right, so that it's not a done deal.
Mm-hmm.
So when my foundation is shaky, can I grasp onto something that is strong?
Yeah, and recognize it, because I think, we only have a little piece of this story. I'm not convinced that when the princes talk back to the king again, I don't know what happens next, but that the king won't be again pulled to the wrong side, which often happens in fairy tales and myths when the king is just kind of corrupt or sick or weak. And that strength of character that we need in actual leaders, but also within our interior, as you were saying. And Jeremiah, the one who brings the bad news to the people.
Jeremiah, he's got a rough go
Mm-hmm.
in this life. He's constantly getting beaten up and, exiled, and
Yeah.
because he's telling uncomfortable truth.
Yeah. And I was reading that he made all these prophecies that he ended up seeing come true.
Right, because nobody listened to him.
So the inner Jeremiah might be my moods or my emotions that are trying to wake me up, and to not ignore those. I think sometimes ignoring those inner warnings, then the warnings just get bigger and bigger, and then the destruction can happen, whether it's an illness, an accident, something that I slip into because I've been ignoring these warnings.
Yes. Yeah. Well, or I think of maybe my inner Jeremiah as my intuition.
Mm-hmm.
My inner prophet. This person is trouble. Take a step back. Don't get involved here.
Yeah.
Don't respond to that email with another angry email. That's not helpful, but to really listen and to do the hard thing.
Right. And to listen to I had an experience this past week where actually it was an email that came into my box, and I felt myself really triggered by its contents. And I thought, okay, there's a mirror here for me to look into, that there's something for me that I really don't really like this message. I really don't like to think that this is also about me. And so Jeremiah had tough words about idolatry, and people didn't want to hear it in the same way that I didn't really want to hear that inner Jeremiah challenge me. Mm-hmm. And it's important to, and this is what people call shadow work.
Right. And why shadow work is so hard is because I have to face what I find uncomfortable or unpleasant about myself. I have to see it and look at it.
Right. And so I would rather just put it in the cistern and get it out of my sight.
That's really interesting, isn't it, right? Because if you're in the cistern, nobody can see what's going on down there, right? Nobody sees Jeremiah down there. Mm-hmm. And even if it's deep enough, nobody's going to hear him either.
Right. But in the psychological realm, that stuff doesn't die. That stuff just stays and putrefies.
Spoils the well water.
Mm-hmm.
I find it interesting that 3 men came along to help. What's his name?
Oh,
Ibn Malik. Ibn Malik.
good job.
Okay, that 3 men came along to help Ibn Malik to get Jeremiah out, just because it makes me think of those 3 angels that came to see Jeremiah. It makes me think of the Trinity. It makes me think of God saving on the 3rd day. That the importance of that number 3. It even makes me think of kind of the Celtic spirituality and Celtic knots of 3 things coming together, of braids that makes things stronger.
Yeah.
So I
love that.
Yeah.
There's an image that I'll post in the show notes also that's Sicilian, and it looks like 3 feet running in a circle. It's ancient. And again, it's 3 is movement, as you've said too about the Trinity. It's a moving number in imagery, and so the psyche is moving. We've reclaimed that shadow piece. We're pulling it out of its exile.
Mm-hmm. So have you had an experience of someone speaking up for you?
No. I can't think of one. How about you?
I'm
sure I have.
I'm sure you have too, but I really totally put you on the spot there. I think of my older sister when we were little, and she's 2.5 years older than me, and so she was 7 or 8, and I was 5, and we were playing with the neighbor girl who was her age, because there weren't any neighbor girls my age, and the neighbor girl said, "Do we really have to play with your sister? She's little," and I felt really bad in that moment. And my older sister said, "This is my sister. If she can't play, I'm not playing either."
Aww.
And so she stood up and she took me by my little hand and we walked home. She claimed me. She stood up for me, pulled me out of that cistern of shame.
All right, we're at the 2nd reading of Hebrews.
Because, men are supposed to make coffee in the morning. Do you know why?
No, why?
Hebrews.
Oh my gosh. Wow. So bad. So bad. But
I amuse myself. That's all I got. Okay.
All right. Sisters and brothers, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us rid ourselves of every burden and sin that clings to us, and persevere in running the race that lies before us, while keeping our eyes fixed on Jesus, the leader and perfecter of faith. For the sake of the joy that lay before him, he endured the cross, despising its shame, and has taken his seat at the right of the throne of God. Consider how he endured such opposition from sinners, in order that you may not grow weary and lose heart. In your struggle against sin, you have not yet resisted to the point of shedding blood.
This makes me think of yoga.
Yeah, why?
Well, because, in yoga, you're doing those impossibly difficult balance poses. You're supposed to look at something, I forget the name of it.
A still point.
That still point. And just looking at it, because it's going to keep your chin up and your shoulders down, that it helps you with that balance, even to the point of shedding blood.
Okay.
But I mean, like it really does help.
Of course, yeah.
Right.
In the same way as following a runner who's ahead of you.
Right, because it changes your posture.
So Paul is always focused on creating community. It feels like relationship is the key for him.
Yes, and this is not Paul.
Okay.
right? This is an unknown writer.
Imitating Paul?
Not even imitating
okay.
Paul. I mean, this is written much later and written during a time of persecution.
Okay.
Which you can really pick up here.
Yeah.
Like what to do with suffering and when things are really hard and how do we persevere through suffering and through persecution.
Well, that makes total sense then, that we need a still point to focus on, and it's going to be Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And the phrasing, this even helps me understand the phrasing, for the sake of the joy that lay before him, he endured the cross. He didn't endure the cross for my sins. He endured the cross because he was going to have joy afterwards, in the same way that you, going to face the lions, are going to have joy in the future.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Because the suffering now is temporary.
Yeah.
The joy later is eternal.
But at the very last sentence is this sort of idea that you haven't really suffered yet.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You talk about suffering, I'll tell you about suffering.
Right. Yeah, I walked uphill both ways to school.
Yeah,
right?
And I shed a lot of blood, and you have not yet. So.
That's right. Or maybe it's an encouragement, like you can still do this. You haven't reached your limit. You haven't reached that point of shedding blood. Like lifting weights, there's the, when you fail, when you can't lift it anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's almost like the author's saying, you can still do this. You're not at that point yet. Is that a big stretch, what I'm saying?
Well, it's not motivating to me. If you're my motivator in the workout room, that doesn't really do it for me.
Your personal trainer.
Yeah. Come on, you haven't shed any blood yet.
You're not suffering enough yet.
Yeah.
You can still lift up that weight.
But, if you have to or want to motivate people who are up against it, I think this image of the race is a great one, and focusing on the person running ahead of me, Jesus, is a great one, and talking about joy and the right hand of God, those are all great. And Jesus endured opposition so that you won't grow weary. And then that last sentence is kind of a strange turn. I
think of those people, bless their hearts, who run those ultra marathons.
Yeah.
50, 100 miles.
Yeah.
And they're running for 18 hours or something insane throughout the night. I cannot imagine the suffering. But there's like this whole running community, people that get up with them and run from midnight to 2 or 2 to 4. Different people will run lengths. So that sense of community, that sense of not being alone, of having that companionship in suffering, and that Jesus is our companion, running with us.
It's a little troubling of an analogy to me, because I just heard a story of somebody who's 80 who did this Death Valley running in 118 degrees.
What?
He ran for 45 hours, only an hour's sleep. It was crazy. And what they acknowledged in the story was that it's addictive.
Oh.
And so the addiction to suffering, a certain kind of suffering. So I don't know what that means and what we're talking about. I'm sure there's a dark side to addiction to suffering. But when you bring up that's what I think of, and I go, ooh, maybe I shouldn't say that. Maybe I'll cut this out. But I didn't know what you might reply to that idea of addiction to suffering. Yeah. Because that is what
that endorphin.
Well,
yeah, was talking to someone and about a person who really has fallen in that victim trap, and no matter what anybody does, it's not the right thing. There's always a fault, and so that's what I think of when I think of that addiction to suffering. Like they're there, and that there's a dopamine released in that self-righteous suffering, which I don't think this reading is about.
No.
But there is something to that. Or people who are so strongly identified to being the victim, they put themselves in that place all the time. It's like that victimhood is integral to their identity.
Yeah.
And so they can never surpass it. They can never move beyond being the victim and taking some personal responsibility for their own life.
Yeah.
Which is tragic.
Yeah, and as we've said before, like, the martyr syndrome is a problem, but then there are times when we are called toward a kind of martyrdom. And certainly in our world today, there are many opportunities to speak truth to power, or just to speak my own truth. And it can feel really scary. And what price might I pay? Because I'd like to move to talking, like, I love hearing the historical context of this. It's really helpful to me. And then I wonder, what are we to take from it right now? And the races that we're running, what do we need to endure? What do we need to not lose heart around? I mean, certainly all the things happening in the world right now call us to be courageous.
And a little scary, too, right? To step out, to speak truth to power, to stand up, to be the advocate for someone else.
We live in a world right now that is very comfortable. And I think...
Well, for some of us.
Thank you, of course, for some of us, for me. And this idea of shedding blood, literally or figuratively, I heard someone recently say to me that things aren't going to change in the United States until more people are willing to sacrifice.
Sometimes things are done in such small increments that I don't notice or I don't know how to respond until there's huge detention camps for undocumented people. And how to get at that I find tricky.
It's strange, the Christians were persecuted and then they became the persecutors. When it became the government, the religion of the government. And yeah, it's hard. It's a system, right? How do you fight a system?
And my voice feels small.
Minuscule, like nothing.
Right. I'm grateful that the United States Council of Catholic Bishops is speaking up against this mass deportation, and all the raids.
Yeah, and I just wonder what it does.
Maybe it will sway the hearts of more Catholics in this issue. That's what I'm hoping for.
Let us rid ourselves of every burden and sin that clings to us. And wow, that's a tall order. Because if I think about again my comfortable life, and I think of that clinging to me and what I want, but I think what I can cling to is consider how he endured such oppositions from sinners in order that I may not grow weary and lose heart. So it's a marathon, not a sprint, of course. And, we kind of had this moment now in the sound booth where we're both sort of, feels like puttering out of steam, like, oh man, so stuck now.
It's so big.
Yeah, and what do I do? And
where do I go?
I feel so guilty about my privilege, and then being reminded that, all right, I start with prayer, because prayer changes me, if nothing else.
Yes, and I do believe prayer changes the world.
I do too.
That through sending out goodness and blessing, it does change all of us. And to not numb out, right, to the news that keeps on feeling so, just pelting me with despair.
Yeah.
How do I keep my chin up, keep my eyes on Jesus, and keep going?
Yeah, I love that you said that about not numbing out. That's really important. Okay.
All right, I wonder if this gospel is going to be any more uplifting. So this is a reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus said to his disciples, "I have come to set the earth on fire, and how I wish it were already blazing. There is a baptism with which I must be baptized, and how great is my anguish until it is accomplished. Do you think that I have come to establish peace on earth? No, I tell you, but rather division. From now on, a household of 5 will be divided, 3 against 2 and 2 against 3. A father will be divided against his son, and a son against his father. A mother against her daughter, and a daughter against her mother. A mother-in-law against her daughter-in-law, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law." The good news of salvation. So no, I guess this gospel isn't much lighter or easier than Hebrews.
No. Lots to say, though, about it. The first thing I want to say is that Midwestern nice is being challenged here. Right?
Yes. So uncomfortable.
Those of us in the Midwest know what I'm talking about. This goal to be nice at all times.
Yes.
And the other thing I notice about this reading is, and I was reading Edinger, who was talking about the early church and Gnosticism versus early Christianity, and Paul's work at trying to create community, and Gnosticism as much more individualistic. And Jungians are very individualistic. It's individuation. It's finding out who I am, which sounds very selfish. But there are times when... So I noticed the tension of these two things, the tension between being in community versus being courageously following one's own path or one's own calling. And that this tension is an important one. And Edinger says, and I agree, like the church that Paul founded was a church that focused not on individual revelation the way the Gnostics did. It focused on community. And there's great, amazing beauty and importance in that. And there can be a loss of that inner work and that inner calling. And in this reading and in the reading where Jesus says, who are your family, leave them. These are moments where we get that sort of that other side, that that calling to be true to a calling even when it burns things.
Mm-hmm. Right. Even when it sets things ablaze. I did read, which I appreciated, in a commentary that this is less about dividing other people and more about consolation when I feel someone has divided me.
Okay.
Like if someone has pushed me out, this is more of a consolation to say, it's okay, Marcy. You did the right thing and you're pushed out, but that's okay. As opposed to saying, I'm right and you're wrong and you're out and I'm in.
Well, I'm going to push now because Jesus says, do you think I have come to establish peace on the earth? And obviously, there are many other readings where the image is of Jesus creating peace on the earth, but that there are times when it is my action, that I'm not just the receiver of the action. So Jungians look at the symbolism of alchemy and the steps of alchemy from the Middle Ages. And one of the chief symbols is calcinatio, which is to calcify, to burn, to be burned, to be burned of one's imperfections.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I hear here. Like, there are times for every purpose under heaven, there are times when the burning needs to happen within myself and between me and others. It's not like forever, but it's a baptism, a blazing baptism.
I guess I would be sad if somebody used this reading to justify their behavior of othering another person or a group of people. Like, oh, all of those folks. See, Jesus said, I'm right and they're wrong. I think that's a slippery slope.
Yeah. He's giving family examples, so I think to stay with that, your concern about Jesus said to not use the slippery slope of shutting out a family member because of a painful disagreement or something. But I still would like to get to sort of what is central then to the reading. Because I think, do you think I have come to establish peace on earth is a very provocative statement for us to wrestle with.
Mm-hmm. Right. And maybe that peace on earth is what you started with, is Midwest nice.
Yeah.
And that Jesus says, no, that's not what I'm about. I'm about truth. I'm about justice. And that blaze of justice that we've been talking about, last week.
And I think this is very pertinent to today, but Jesus talks about it quite a bit, actually. The claims that family can make on us to stop us from being our true self.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the tension, right, between wanting to be close versus wanting to follow a call. And I had said on an earlier episode that all the disciples left family. And we could imagine how devastating that was to the family and the disciple. And so, again, it's discerning the truth, but family is one of the ways that we can go to sleep, maybe.
Well, I think of the story of the rich young man, who comes to Jesus and says, I've done everything that I'm supposed to. Tell me what is it that I need to do? And Jesus is filled with joy and says, come, follow me. And he can't, because he has too much wealth. And he says, oh, I have to wait to bury my father. And Jesus is sad and says, the dead will bury the dead, and how hard it is to follow Jesus. It's the camel through the eye of the needle.
Yeah.
But that bigger question, that what is it that holds me back?
Right.
What's that web, like a spider's web, like a cocoon, that keeps me stuck?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot of family, but even just in my marriage, I know that it's easy for me to go, well, I can't do that thing. I can't take that radical step because, Rick wouldn't go along with that. And that makes it easy for me. And so again, no one can tell. I can't tell anyone else. I can barely figure out things for myself if I'm lucky,
Amen, sister.
Yeah. But Jesus is saying, don't expect this to be easy peasy, and following our calling is going to put us in conflict with the people we love. And how do we deal with that? How do we reconcile that? And the images of this reading are not soothing. It's a world on fire.
This is a hard one for me.
So again, in alchemy, the idea of alchemy is that you separate and then you purify and then you reconstitute. And Jungian therapists say that that's kind of what happens in therapy, that we separate out the parts of ourselves. We try to untangle, figure out what's moving us. And then there is a lot of emotion, which is like the fiery, and there is solutio, which is the water, which is the tears. And then there's the reconstituting after we've kind of gone through emotions and tears and learning, facing shadow, learning. And so I love that this reading, if it was just Midwestern nice, we would be in a big problem. And I don't know what the church is like in all other areas of the world, but I think the emphasis on community, again, can stop us from our work.
Yes, for sure. I like that idea that this isn't the end of the story.
Right.
This is the process to get to the end, to pull out what doesn't work, to sort that out, to untangle, in order for greater unity and for true peace.
Exactly. And, you might be in a session with a person who's on fire with a lot of emotion, maybe a lot of anger, a lot of fierceness, maybe toward family. And that is a necessary step before moving toward reconciliation, that you can't get to the one without the other.
No, and it's necessary, because otherwise that anger, it eats up a person from the inside out. I'm always curious, what is the reading after this reading?
Yeah.
And for this one, it's Jesus says to the crowd, when you see a cloud rising in the west, immediately you say it's going to rain, and it does. When you see the wind blowing, you say it's going to be hot from the south, and it is. Hypocrites, you know how to interpret the earth and the sky. How is it you don't know how to interpret this present time? So to see and appreciate the conflict that is.
And I think, it's always juicy when something makes us uncomfortable.
I don't like it.
I know. I know.
Weren't we just talking about this?
Yeah, we were. And I have been so I gave the example of massage therapy, and I'm really experiencing it much more. I'm in some physical therapy right now for my shoulder, and the therapist has said, it's got to hurt The hurt means you're breaking up the scar tissue. Now, I know hurt, but not this kind of hurt. Like, this is real pain that you need to ice afterwards in order for it not to get so bad. And I have a great appreciation because it'd be easy for me to go, you know what, my shoulder's fine. I'm fine. I don't really need to do this. But already my range of motion is improving. I know it's working, but man, it's painful.
It is true. You know, in order to get the best results, to be my best self, I have to do the painful stuff.
And, you know, a reading or an email or whatever it is that pokes at me and I say, oh, yeah, yuck, I've just been triggered. I feel something. That's that Jeremiah again. Mm-hmm. Hello. And I think, in my experience anyway, being awake to these is like reading the weather and knowing that there's something for me. There's some gift for me.
Yes, and I pray for the grace to face the pain, right? To keep going, to keep my eye on Jesus, and to trust and to have faith.
Yeah, well, the readings are kind of working together.
Crazy. It's almost like someone designed it that way. Thank you, Laura, for hanging out with me this afternoon and talking about these readings, even though they're challenging, but to stay with them.
It's an adventure that I really appreciate.
Yes. And we appreciate you listeners. And if you appreciate us, please put a comment in, rate this podcast, share it, and maybe just even take it into your own life and into your own heart and to ask yourself your own heart questions. We'll see you next time.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.